A girl wakes up to find herself tied up, and two elderly women in front of her are waiting to eat. She never expected that a moment of carelessness would lead her to be captured in a terrifying cannibal zone. In the future, influenced by social conditions, people who contribute nothing to the country will be labeled and abandoned, becoming second-class citizens in the wilderness. The unfortunate girl, Arlen, is one such example. In the desert, there is a cannibal zone in the center and a comfort zone on the outskirts. The people living in these two areas are all second-class citizens abandoned by modern society. Arlen had terrible luck. As soon as she entered the desert, she encountered a horrifying group of cannibals. For food delivered to their doorstep, the cannibals show no mercy. They first inject an anti-inflammatory drug, then cut off the parts they like to eat. To ensure the food stays fresh, they sear the wounds with a red-hot iron pan to stop the bleeding with a sizzling sound. Late at night, Arlen wakes up from unconsciousness to find that she is missing an arm and a leg. Although the cannibals won't trouble her again for a while, Arlen knows that if she wants to survive, she must find a way to escape. Finally, she came up with a very disgusting idea. The next day, under the shocked gaze of the old woman, Arlen smeared herself with feces, thinking this would make her too repulsive to eat. But to her surprise, the old woman wasn't bothered at all. She immediately untied her, dragged her to a clean spot, and fetched a bucket of water to wash her off. Arlen realized this wouldn't do, so while the old woman went to get the water, she secretly hid a steel rod. When she was off guard, she struck her down with a heavy blow, hitting her several more times for good measure. Seeing no one around, Arlen, despite the pain of her severed limbs, crawled forward and made it to a garbage dump. There, she luckily found a skateboard, quickly climbed onto it, and managed to escape the cannibal zone. Unfortunately, she didn't get far before she could no longer hold on. The scorching heat of the desert, the lack of water, and her severe injuries made it impossible for Arlen to keep going, even if he were made of iron. She needed to cool down. In this life-threatening moment, a scavenger uncle appeared. Not only did he not turn away from Arlen, but he also lifted her onto his cart. The two of them traveled together, crossing mountains and rivers, journeying for a long time until they finally reached the comfort zone. The culture here was the complete opposite of the cannibal zone. Every resident was full of compassion. After 5 months of rehabilitation, Arlen had fully recovered except for her missing limbs, which couldn't grow back. Perhaps to help her feel better, the residents even fitted her with a prosthetic limb. Life in the comfort zone was peaceful and reassuring. Compared to the metropolis and the cannibal zone, this place was a paradise. Arlen could have stayed here forever, but her injuries became a tormenting reminder, causing her deep pain due to her physical imperfections. Arlen tried various ways to distract herself, but nothing worked. The need for revenge consumed her, so she got hold of a revolver and, after mastering her shooting skills, left the comfort zone to settle the score. Arlen traveled north for 2 days and nights until she finally arrived near the cannibal zone. While searching for a target, she came across a mother and daughter from the cannibal tribe at a garbage dump. The woman was severely injured, and upon seeing Arlen approach with a gun, she quickly begged for mercy, pleading for her to spare them. With a cold expression, Arlen remarked that she had once pleaded the same way, but in the end, wasn't she still harmed by them? Ignoring her pleas, Arlen pulled the trigger without hesitation. However, to Arlen's surprise, after the woman died, her daughter showed no signs of grief. Whether from shock or because she was used to death due to her parents being cannibals, the girl seemed unfazed. Out of sympathy, Arlen decided to take the girl with him back to the comfort zone and bought her a rabbit as a companion. Meanwhile, Arlen had no idea that the girl's father was a formidable cannibal warrior, nicknamed Miami Man, with unmatched combat skills. As the sun was about to set and his wife and daughter hadn't returned home, Miami Man sensed something was wrong. He immediately grabbed a picture of them, hopped on his motorcycle, and started searching the desert. By chance, the scavenger uncle had witnessed Arlen taking the girl. Impressed by Miami Man's extraordinary drawing skills, the scavenger finally smiled and agreed to tell him where the girl had gone, after Miami Man drew him a picture. The two tribes had always kept to themselves, never interfering with each other. If Miami Man rashly went looking for his daughter, he might get stuck there, unable to find her. Just as he was uncertain about what to do, Arlen, in her usual careless manner, messed things up on her own. That night, the comfort zone was hosting a party. Caught up in the lively atmosphere, Arlen took a few pills and, in a moment of distraction, lost track of the girl. In a daze, She wandered outside the town to search for her and happened to run into Miami Man. Seeing the muscular man, Arlen's legs buckled and she collapsed right into Miami Man's arms. The next morning, Arlen woke up from her sleep. When she realized the man from last night was a cannibal, she immediately started thinking about where she might be buried. Fortunately, Miami Man wasn't hungry at that moment. He took out a picture of his daughter and asked Arlen if he had seen her. Arlen, now even more nervous, feared that telling the truth might get him killed, so he lied and said she hadn't seen her. Miami Man didn't make things difficult for her, but instead proposed a deal. He promised to take Arlen back to the comfort zone if Arlen helped him find his daughter. As they traveled together, they made frequent stops. To protect her own life, Arlen deliberately led Miami Man in circles through the desert. Just as Miami Man was running out of patience, a black man rode up to them on a motorcycle. He took a barrel of water from the back and offered to trade it with Miami Man, knowing that in this scorching desert climate, water was essential for survival. Miami Man hesitated for a couple of seconds before agreeing to the trade, unaware that the entire situation had been staged. But from the behind, the Miami Man threw knife and axe and killed the black man. From the beginning, Miami Man never intended to let the black man go. After the trade, they both rode the motorcycle and continued their journey. As they got closer to the comfort zone, Arlen began to stall, pretending she needed to relieve herself, but in reality, she was plotting how to get rid of Miami Man. Just then, a sandstorm whipped up in the desert. Miami Man, showing unexpected kindness, handed Arlen a cloth to shield her from the blowing sand. As Arlen looked at Miami Man's stoic face, she found himself momentarily captivated. That night, they found a place to rest. Arlen became increasingly curious about Miami Man's demeanor, so different from other cannibals. She wondered how such an impressive man could have become a second-class citizen. Miami Man sighed, explaining that he was Cuban. Having come to the United States without identification, he was deemed an illegal immigrant and, without any recourse, was banished to the wasteland. In an attempt to find an opportunity to escape, Arlen made small talk with Miami Man, and when Miami Man least expected it, Arlen seized a knife and threatened him, demanding that she leave. But Miami Man was unfazed. He stepped closer and closer, even as the knife pierced him, his expression never changing. Arlen was completely taken by this display of masculine strength, and just as something was about to happen between them, a gunshot rang out. Miami Man was hit. It turned out that people from the comfort zone had arrived. By sheer luck, they were passing by and rescued Arlen, whisking her away to safety. However, back in the comfort zone, Arlen couldn't find any happiness. Her thoughts were consumed by Miami Man, and she became increasingly despondent. In her anguish, she dared to venture outside the town in search of Miami Man, only to find a sketchbook at the last place they had been together. Back in the comfort zone, Arlen found herself staring at the sketchbook, lost in thought. After much contemplation, she decided to help Miami Man find his daughter. She printed thousands of copies of the girl's picture and distributed them throughout the city, asking passers-by if they had seen her. Unfortunately, despite her efforts, she found no leads. Just as Arlen was feeling deep regret, she suddenly spotted the girl with a pregnant woman. The woman was the beloved consort of the town's mayor, the Dream. It turned out that on the night of the party, after the girl had wandered off, she was found by the Dream. Struck by her beauty, the Dream secretly took her to his mansion, planning to raise her as a child bride. The Dream was the creator of the comfort zone and wielded absolute power, revered by all the residents. Yet, no one had ever suspected anything amiss. To maintain control over the people, the Dream would often distribute free hallucinogenic drugs. Summoning her courage, Arlen entered the mansion, discovering that the seemingly righteous the Dream had illicit relations with most of the women in the town. If she didn't rescue the girl soon, the consequences would be unimaginable. Relying on her own good looks, Arlen managed to charm the Dream with a few words. When no one was around, Arlen pulled out a handgun hidden in her prosthetic limb and took the Dream's consort hostage. She successfully used the 2-for-1 life exchange to rescue the girl. Fearing that the Dream might go back on her word, Arlen kept the consort hostage for a long distance. Only when she felt completely safe did she release her and return her to the comfort zone. Although Arlen rescued the girl, she faced a more difficult choice. She could no longer return to the comfort zone, and she was afraid to go back to the cannibal zone. In his despair, Miami Man appeared from the distance on a motorcycle. After their last encounter, Miami Man, who had been near death, was rescued by the scavenger uncle. The uncle, like an angel in the desert, selflessly helps anyone in need, regardless of their background. Under the uncle's careful care, Miami Man quickly recovered and made his way back to the comfort zone. When father and daughter reunited, Miami Man was overjoyed. Arlen was not abandoned. They developed mutual feelings and eventually came together. In the end, the family chose to settle at the border, free from societal constraints, and began a new chapter in their lives. The Bad Batch, released in 2016, is a low-budget film with a strong cast and explosive content. After being restructured by the director, it exudes a powerful postmodern aesthetic. The film's depiction of a four-tiered society serves as a sharp satire of the complex issues caused by wealth-based discrimination and inequality in modern society. The unequal distribution of public resources makes it difficult for lower-class individuals to secure a livelihood, and a narrow cultural and value perspective can lead to more intense conflicts. Therefore, people should not be categorized into different tiers. Everyone, regardless of their background, should be treated equally. That's all for today's film review.
See you next time.